So this video is to talk about the notion of equation referencing, and it's a very useful technique when you're writing a longer article or something like that. So what I've done at the beginning of this file is I have input the various packages that I've used in the previous videos together with the new commands, the shortcut commands that I introduced in the video on shortcut commands. So then I'm going to begin my document. I'm going to start a new paragraph, and I'm going to enter a 2x2 matrix A. So suppose, and then I'm going to use begin equation and end equation. In the introductory video, I used double dollar signs to create centered equations. But for equation referencing, it's better to use the begin equation and the end equation commands. I'm going to enter a 2x2 matrix A. So to enter a bordered matrix, begin B matrix, end B matrix, and then you list each row, separating entries with the and symbol. So 2 and 3, go to the next line of your matrix, backslash, backslash, 4 and 6, and you'll see what we have over here. If you remove the B, just use begin and end matrix, you'll get the matrix without the borders. Okay, so let's go back and put the B's in. There's different ways to create matrices. I've seen people use arrays and that type of thing, but I prefer to use the begin matrix and end matrix. And incidentally, if you get tired of typing begin matrix and end matrix, you can just create your own command. So instead of begin B matrix, you could maybe abbreviate that backslash BM. You could maybe abbreviate end B matrix with backslash EM. There's all sorts of things you can do. Now, you'll notice that the equation is numbered here. Now, let's say we didn't want the numbering. A common way to suppress the numbering is just to introduce an asterisk. An asterisk there. Recompile. And now you'll see the equation without the number. But let's say you want to keep the number there, and you want to reference the equation. So then the determinant of A, then I'll say from 1, we have the determinant of A equals 0. That's because it's obviously a singular matrix. Okay, let's compile that. Okay, so that looks okay. However, if you have a long document and you start introducing new equations, you don't want to just manually renumber every time. So here's a way you can get about that. It's called equation labeling. Right after the command begin equation, go backslash label open brace EQ, and then you want to name your equation. So typically you could say 1, 2, 3, something like that, but I like to use a name that's suggestive, so I'll just put, let's say, determinant. Okay? Now, in the body, if we want to refer to that, we say backslash ref, open brace, EQ determinant. So now when I compile, LaTeX knows that whatever this reference is, it's going to look at the corresponding labeled equation. Then from 1 we have. Should you want to put parentheses around this reference, you can certainly do that as well. Okay? Let's talk about an align formula. Let's start a new paragraph. If f of z equals z squared, then let's go in the align environment, begin, align, f of 1 plus I equals, well, let's put an ampersand because we want to line up our equal signs, 1 plus I quantity squared. Let's go to a new line. and equals 1 squared plus I squared plus 2I. Okay, backslash, backslash. And if I've done my math correctly, I squared is -1, so those two terms will cancel out and we'll have just 2I. Okay, let's compile. Okay, so you'll notice now that each line is labeled here. If we don't like the labeling, we don't want any labeling, what we can do is introduce a star there, introduce a star there, and now we get rid of the numbering completely. Okay, so what if we want to just number one line, maybe the bottom line? So let's recompile. We don't want to number everything. Notice how we're going 2, 3, 4 because we already labeled this a 1. Let's suppose we want to just label the bottom line. So let's put a label there, EQ. I'll call this result, close brace. Okay. I haven't referenced it yet, but you'll notice how I still have these numbered as well. Here's a trick for getting rid of those. Backslash, no tag, backslash, no tag. So that means there won't be any numbering on these lines. Let's start a new paragraph. It follows from, let's refer to this result here. It follows from backslash ref EQ, follows from that the result is purely imaginary. Notice how we only have numbering on this bottom line, which might be what we want. Okay, so this is a simple introduction to numbering equations. I should point out that if you're using an installation of LaTeX on your own computer, you may need to compile twice to get the numbers to appear as they should. If you have, instead of a 1, you see something like a question mark, that typically means that there was an error in the reference command may not know where it should be looking, so you want to double check your spelling. So that's all there is for numbering equations.